Watch the ride.
I remember a time that I couldn't get more than about 12 quid in this bike if I wanted to. That's nearly 19 quid in fuel. God, what a difference it makes. I didn't know this until a little while ago. The XJ6 really benefits from having fuel in its tank. I was taking Reno to a Japanese lesson. She's on the back of the bike, so that's weight further back. Not much, she's only small. But then in a backpack, which is again further back, she's got a ton of her like Japanese books that are like really, really thick. And I'm riding along, and I just noticed that this bike feels really weird. And then I looked down and I realised I had virtually no fuel, and then realised the reason it felt so weird is because the front end was lighter. It obviously had shifted the weight on the bike backwards, and I'd never noticed it so much. So anyway, we stopped, filled up the tank, and immediately it was 1,000 times better. I've never noticed it in all the years I've been riding this bike. I guess I just never got that low on fuel with someone on the back, because normally what I do is I know I'm going to have someone on the back, and I'm going to be going somewhere, so I tend to fill up with fuel first. And it makes total sense because it's a massive amount of weight right up by the forks. But I don't know, I just didn't think that it would be so noticeable. So yeah, if you own an XJ6 and you're going to have someone on the back with a lot of books in their bag, make sure you got a good amount of fuel in your tank. It will make it much more pleasant. I can feel the inertial difference. Wow. Watch this, we're going to get amber. I know this set of lights well enough to know I'm going to get an amber. There you go. She may be old, she may be a divvy. Still reasonably quick. Do you know what? Yeah, I reckon it pulls harder. Feels like it does. Or maybe that's just because it's got more weight up front that it feels like it hunkers down more. Well, of course. It's always me. Yeah, it feels more planted. The handling on this bike is definitely nicer. The ride feels better, and it's better with a pillion when you got a full tank of fuel. Maybe I should just make sure my tank's full most of the time. You know, I used to do that. I used to have it full all the time, as much as I could, just in case I wanted to go on a long ride out of nowhere. Nowadays, with the way things are, I'm a bit more like a student. Well, no, because I've just filled it to the brim. But I should try and keep it at this level rather than let it get down. This is the thing, bikes do feel different when they have different amounts of fuel in them. You know, well, I've done my videos in the past talking about not needing a fuel gauge because you can feel when the bike's running out of fuel, and I made a video talking about that, and people got mad at me and said it was a load of rubbish, and they were all people who hadn't ridden bikes for long, and I'd ridden for years at that point. And then I made an update to it many more years after that and said I still agree, and I still agree. You can tell when a bike's got more fuel in it. And some bikes, they seem to perform better with more fuel in them, which, you know, shouldn't make any sense, because when it comes to a fuel-injected bike, the pressure of the fuel and the map of the bike isn't affected, supposedly, by, well, not talking about the map, but, you know, the pressure maybe, isn't affected by how much fuel is actually in your tank or not. It's like Laguna Seca. It's our own corkscrew. even my DRZ 400, I've said I can definitely feel a performance difference in that bike when it's got more fuel in it, and that's carbed. And maybe that would make some sense in a way, because, you know, it's gravity fed, the head pressure of the tank is helping the fuel, make sure there's plenty of it there to get into the carb and be available to be used at a moment's notice. But a lot of people will still say that I'm wrong and I'm about that. And I don't know, maybe it is completely psychosomatic and it's all in my brain. So here's a question, for everyone watching this, if you ride bikes a lot, does your bike feel different when it's got fuel in it? And why do you think it feels different? And if you haven't paid attention to this, pay attention to it. Let it get low, you know, pay attention to what it's like to ride like that, and then fill it up to the brim and then see what the difference is. Just be aware your bike weighs a bit more and the weighting's different, but it's your bike, you know. I just would like to know, like, because it's like it's a conspiracy theory I believe in, but every time I say about it, a lot of people are like, no, it can't, it's impossible. Oh, of course, I better mention this, because whenever you talk about fuel, E5 and E10 come up, I have videos on that, talking about it in depth. Yeah, I have, I'm sure I have. But in short, my bikes seem to run better on E5 than they do on E10, although they will run on E10, they just don't seem to like it. The DR doesn't like it, seems very finicky about that, and the XJ just seems lumpier and runs weird with E10. And there are several other people who have commented on my videos over the years who have said the exact same thing, which is it is undeniable the difference that it makes. Plus, many people will say that you use so much more E10 that it actually works out being MPG-wise in the end perfectly viable to keep getting E5, because yeah, it's more expensive, but you get more miles and your bike's happier with it. Unless it doesn't care one bit, and then you're a win-win situation. But apparently you don't get the same mileage out of it. But I'm not going to test, guys, okay? But I would like you to like the video if you liked it. Remember to leave a comment, and if you want to help support this channel, please consider doing that through Patreon. Thanks, bye!